Have you ever wondered what a mother would do to protect her children, even if it meant walking through a storm? The wind howled through the empty night, carrying the sharp bite of winter. Snow fell in thick, relentless sheets, swallowing the world in a cold, suffocating silence. Then a sound. Faint. Weak. A scratching. Jack frowned, setting his mug down. He listened. A moment of stillness. Then it came again. This time, a muffled whimper. His chest tightened. He turned toward the door, footsteps slow, cautious. His pulse pounded in his ears. Who could be out there, in this brutal cold? As he neared the entrance, the glass fogged slightly from the warmth inside. The storm raged beyond, swirling in a chaotic dance of white. And then, his breath hitched. A figure stood against the snow. A German shepherd. Her body quivered, frost clung to her fur. Her breath formed small, fading clouds in the air. And pressed tightly against her, barely visible beneath her protective stance. 2 tiny puppies. Jack's hand hovered over the doorknob. He hesitated. The mother's eyes met his. Desperation? Fear. But also, trust. She didn't bark. Didn't move. She was waiting. Hoping. She had come here for help. She had chosen his door. Jack's fingers trembled over the doorknob. His mind raced. What if she was sick? What if she carried trouble? He wasn't prepared for this. He had lived alone for years, away from the weight of responsibility. But as he looked into her eyes, those pleading, exhausted eyes, something deep inside him stirred. The storm howled behind her, snowflakes clinging to her matted fur. Her ribs pressed against her skin, her legs unsteady. Yet she stood firm, shielding her pups, refusing to let the cold claim them. Jack exhaled. He couldn't close the door. Slowly, he turned the knob. The door creaked open. A gust of icy wind rushed inside, clawing at his skin. Still, the mother didn't move. She remained frozen, watching him, uncertain. Jack crouched, lowering himself to her level, his voice softer now. Come on, girl, you're safe now. She hesitated, ears twitching, glancing back at her pups. Then, with a deep breath, she took a cautious step forward. One by one, she nudged her puppies inside, her nose gently urging them forward. Jack stepped aside, watching as they crossed the threshold. This moment, this quiet, unspoken trust, changed everything. The warmth of the cabin wrapped around them, but the mother still shivered. Jack could see the exhaustion in her trembling legs, the way her ribs pressed against her skin. The pups, barely able to move, whimpered softly, their tiny bodies curled into her side. She had been fighting for so long. Jack grabbed an old blanket and spread it near the fire. He moved slowly, careful not to startle her. She flinched when he reached toward her. Not aggressive, just wary. Jack pulled his hand back, giving her space. Instead, he placed a bowl of water nearby and stepped away. You're safe here, he murmured. She stayed where she was, eyes locked on him, body tense. Her breathing was uneven, her muscles coiled like she was ready to run. But she didn't. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The pups huddled closer to her warmth. Slowly, the mother eased onto the blanket. She was still alert, still protective. But for the first time, her body seemed to relax. Jack set down a bowl of food a few feet away. He didn't push. He just watched. More time passed. Then she moved. Cautiously, she sniffed the food. Another hesitation. Then, finally, she ate. Jack exhaled, tension he hadn't realized he was holding leaving his body. He sat back against the couch, watching her, his voice barely above a whisper. What happened to you, girl? The cabin is quiet. The storm from the night before has passed, leaving behind a thick layer of snow outside. Inside, the fire burns low, casting a soft glow against the wooden walls. Jack stirs in his chair, rubbing the stiffness from his neck. He had fallen asleep watching over them, over her. The German shepherd. She lays curled by the fire, her pups nestled into her belly. Safe. Warm. For the first time, her body isn't shaking from exhaustion. Jack exhales, stretching as he stands. The night is over. The worst is behind them. Or so he thinks. A shift in the air, the warning. Then, a sound. Not a bark. Not a whimper. A low, guttural growl. Jack freezes. His pulse quickens. The mother is no longer resting. Her body is rigid, ears pricked forward, every muscle tensed. Her amber eyes are locked onto the window, unblinking. Jack follows her gaze. The curtains are drawn, but something in her stance tells him, something is out there. His breath comes slower now. Carefully, quietly, he steps toward the window. With a slow pull, he parts the curtain just an inch. And his stomach drops. Footprints. Fresh. Deep. Leading straight to the cabin. Jack's fingers tighten around the curtain. At the edge of the woods, a figure stands. Dark. Motionless. Watching. Jack's chest tightens. His hands instinctively clench. Behind him, the mother's growl deepens. Jack turns back to her, and what he sees chills him more than the figure outside. Her body isn't just tense. It's rigid with fear. Her tail is tucked low. Her eyes aren't just cautious, they're terrified. She knows this person. Jack's stomach twists. This isn't just a random passerby. This isn't a coincidence. This is someone from her past. Jack moves back from the window, his breath slow, steady. He doesn't want to startle her. She won't take her eyes off the woods. Her ears twitch with every sound, every small movement beyond the glass. Jack crouches beside her, keeping his voice low. Hey, it's okay. No one's getting in here. She doesn't look at him. Only at the door. Jack follows her gaze, and his pulse spikes. The footprints don't just stop outside. They lead to the porch. To the door. Jack stands, his mind racing. Was this someone looking for her? Had she run from them? Did they want her back? Or worse? Jack glances at the rifle near the fireplace. He hasn't used it in years, but tonight it might be different. His eyes shift back to the mother. She doesn't move. Doesn't breathe. Just waits. Then, the crunch of snow. A step. Close. Too close. The mother lets out a deep, guttural snarl. Jack grips the doorknob. His pulse pounds. Whoever is out there knows she's inside. And they aren't leaving. A sharp knock shatters the heavy silence. Jack's breath stills. He was expecting this. He moves toward the door, every step deliberate. The mother growls low beside him, her body tense. Her pups huddle behind her, tiny forms pressed against the wooden floor. Another knock. More forceful this time. Jack tightens his jaw and pulls the door open. A man stands on the porch. His coat is dusted with snow, but he doesn't shiver. Cold seeps from him, not from the weather, but from something deeper. His lips curl into a smirk. That's my dog. I've come to take her back. The shift, fear becomes strength. Jack's blood turns to ice. Behind him, the mother steps forward, placing herself between Jack and her pups. Her body is no longer shaking in fear. It's rigid. Protective. Ready. Her teeth bare in a silent warning. Jack doesn't miss the way her stance shifts, not cowering, not uncertain. She knows this man. And she remembers. The man clicks his tongue, shaking his head. Still got that fire in you, huh, girl? Jack's fists clench. You abandoned her, he says, his voice steel. She's not yours anymore. The man's smirk falters. His hand tightens around the rope in his grip. A noose. Not a leash. Jack's stomach twists. You don't know what you're dealing with, old man. The man mutters. The breaking point, no turning back. Jack steps forward, shoulders squared. You're not taking her anywhere. The wind howls between them, but nothing feels colder than the space between Jack and the man. Then, a deep, guttural growl. The German shepherd lowers her body, muscles taut, teeth bared. Her growl is not a fear. It's a promise. She isn't running. She isn't hiding. Not anymore. The man hesitates. For the first time, uncertainty flickers in his eyes. Jack sees it. Holds it. And he leans in. If you ever come back, Jack says, his voice quiet but sharp as a blade, I won't be this nice again. The tension snaps between them. The man takes a slow step back. Then another. His fingers flex around the rope, but he knows. He's lost. Without another word, he turns and disappears into the woods. The aftermath? This isn't over. Jack doesn't move. He watches, heart hammering, until the darkness swallows the man whole. He locks the door. Bolts it. The mother doesn't stop staring at the door. Jack kneels beside her, reaching out slowly. She doesn't flinch. Instead, she leans into him. Not out of fear, but trust. Jack runs a hand through her fur, his voice steady. He's gone, girl. You're home now. But deep down, he knows, this isn't over. The fire crackles softly, casting a warm glow over the cabin. The storm outside has settled, leaving behind a peaceful stillness. Jack sits on the floor beside her. The German Shepherd lays close, her body no longer tense, her breathing no longer shaky. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now hold something different. Trust. Jack slowly reaches out, his fingers brushing against her fur. She doesn't flinch. Doesn't pull away. Instead, for the first time, she leans into him. Jack exhales, his hand resting gently on her head. You're safe now. No one will ever hurt you again. The pups stir, their tiny bodies wiggling against their mother's warmth. One stumbles toward Jack, its small tail wagging clumsily. Jack chuckles, scooping the pup into his hands. Its warmth, its life, so fragile yet so full of hope. Another pup toddles forward, nuzzling against his leg. A warmth spreads in Jack's chest. A feeling he hasn't known in a long time. He looks at the mother again. She watches him, her amber eyes soft. The deep wounds, both seen and unseen, are beginning to heal. And so is he. Days pass. The pups grow stronger, their once weak cries turning into playful yips. They stumble across the wooden floors, exploring, tumbling, learning. The mother no longer hovers in constant fear. Now she watches them with pride. Jack watches too. His once quiet cabin is now filled with life, tiny paws pattering, soft barks echoing, the warmth of companionship that had been missing for so long. Stories like this remind us that love, trust, and second chances can change everything. A mother's strength, a stranger's kindness, and the unbreakable bond that forms in the face of hardship, it all shows us that even the most broken souls can heal with love. If this story touched your heart, consider supporting a local shelter, adopting a pet in need, or simply spreading awareness. Every dog deserves a safe, loving home, and together, we can make a difference. If you believe that every animal deserves a second chance, hit the like button, share this story with someone who loves dogs, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories. Because sometimes, the ones we rescue end up rescuing us too. What do you think? Was the shepherd simply lost, or was she always meant to find someone new, someone who truly deserved her loyalty? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Fire. If this heartwarming story of fate and devotion touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another incredible dog story. Memo. And if you've ever shared a special bond with a dog, tell us your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Raising hands. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care and give your furry friends an extra hug today.